much, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program. Let's tell you that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will deploy the bimodal voter accreditation system in the November 6th governorship election in Anambra State, and as one that it will help to identify voting thieves, and they have also told them to steer clear of polling units during the exercise. The new technology, according to INEC, which combines fingerprints and facials, will be the only means of authenticating voters at the November governorship election, and anyone who fails the authentication will not be allowed to vote. There's a lot more about the Anambra governorship election and the preparations there. Don't forget that some gunmen have attacked INEC facilities in that state, and the kind of situation that is happening in Anambra State calls for some concern. But INEC says it has fixed all of these things, and they are working to ensure that that election is delivered. So let's speak tonight with INEC National Commissioner in charge of voter education and publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye, joins us now. Thank you so much, Mr. Okoye, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
First and foremost, you had some of your facilities destroyed by these criminals. How far? You said you have fixed all of those. Everything is now set. That's what you said.
Well, we've fixed a substantial number of them. Our pavilion or collation center was destroyed. The collation center is up now. Our stores, where we normally store electro materials, generating sets, and the rest of them was destroyed. We have fixed the store. We have also fixed the main building that was also engulfed in one way or the other by fire and also damaged. So we fixed a substantial number of the facilities. So the implication is that we are now able to move materials back to the OCA office for deployment and delivery to the local government offices of the commission. So we are confident that we've fixed a substantial number of all those facilities that were destroyed, and they are ready to receive materials now.
So in essence, we understand also that the non-sensitive materials are already on the ground.
Not exactly. What we normally do is we still have some time to the governorship election on the 6th of November. So what we are now doing is that we have zonal stores, and we are going to move what we call non-sensitive materials to the zonal to the OCA Anambra office of the commission, and this involves voting cubicles, ballot boxes, ink pads, biro, and all those non-sensitive materials required for the conduct of election. Those are the things that we go to Anambra State first. So in the next few days, those materials will begin their movement to the office. But the sensitive materials required for the conduct of elections are not yet there. These materials will be moved under security cover to the central bank and to other secure facilities before the election. So some of them are going to get to Anambra State at least a week to the election. But the bimodal voter accreditation system and other sensitive materials may arrive first, but the ballot papers and result sheets will arrive maybe a week to the election.
So you're phasing out what we are used to, the smart card readers.
Yes.
We are now used to it. At least we've used it in how many election cycles now?
Two electoral cycles.
Two electoral cycles now.
Yes.
And so that will not happen. So a number of people should be prepared for something new, isn't it? So have you trained, before I get into the details and the technicalities of the use of the bimodal accreditation system, have you trained your staff for it?
Well, but as you pointed out, we are more or less retiring the smart card reader. The smart card reader has performed well. It has served this country well. It's served for almost 2 electoral cycles with the all by-elections and other off-season elections that we have had. So the issue now is that there are more modern technologies in the market, and that is exactly what we are doing. So we are deploying the bimodal voter accreditation system for the purposes of the Anambra governorship election. The implication is that what we are now doing is that we have what we call technological convergence. These beavers is what we're also using for voter enrollment. The continuous voter registration exercise, we are using the same technology for it. So when we are engaged in voter enrollment, we call it the INEC voter enrollment device. After enrollment, when we are engaged in election, we call it the BVAS because it is going to be used for accreditation of voters. Now, after the election, the same technology, the same device will be used for uploading polling unit results into our INEC resolving portal. So it's a multifunctional device, and that's exactly what we are going to use.
That's interesting. This probably the first time I'm hearing it, that you're saying it, because the understanding a lot of us have is that it's just for accreditation. No, now we now know that you are using it for accreditation, right?
We are using it for voter enrollment.
Enrollment, okay.
For accreditation, and also for uploading of polling unit results into our INEC result viewing portal.
Oh, that's interesting. So, with what we have now, you've tested it in how many elections now? About 2 by-elections?
The BVAS. We tested it during the Isoko
the Delta
South State constituency election. Yes.
So that I think you did in Nasarawa by-election.
Well, what we used during the Nasarawa State constituency by-election was the ZPAD.
Okay.
But you see, this particular device combines the functionality of the 3 of them. Before we were using the DDC machine for voter enrollment. Now we are using the BVAS as it were for voter enrollment. Before we were using the smart card reader for purposes of accreditation. Now we are using the BVAS for purposes of accreditation. In Nasarawa, we use the ZPAD for the purposes of uploading polling unit results. Now we are using the BVAS for purposes of uploading polling unit results. So it's a multifunctional device that combines a lot of features, and that's why we went for it.
So in clear terms, INEC is going to transmit result electronically.
We are going to upload polling unit results into our INEC result viewing portal.
That means you're uploading it electronically.
Exactly.
I know you were running away from.
I'm not running away
that
from
word because I mean it was being considered in amendment to the Electoral Act.
Yes.
For now, INEC, empowered by the Constitution to devise a means as it deems fit, gives you the powers to be able to get a procedure where you want to use any electronic device for this kind of election. And so it brings me to the question, there are a lot of people who thought that the Electoral Act amendment would come before the Anambra governorship election. If it doesn't come, does that take anything away from this election?
Well, as far as the commission is concerned, we operate on the basis of the existing law. And the existing law as of today revolves around the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended and the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. Those are the existing laws, and we combine them with our regulations, our guidelines, and our manuals. Now, we are also looking at a situation where the Electoral Act amendment bill may be signed into law before the Anambra governorship election. So the question we have asked is, are there provisions in the bill that is pending before the National Assembly as of today that will have an impact on the governorship election in Anambra State if it is signed into law? We've looked at that particular scenario. Now,
what did you find out in that scenario?
Yes, a few of them, but they are not really fundamental.
But I mean, because you're a lawyer, so give us a sense of what this means. If in the process of going through an election, because an election is not an event, it's a process. So it's not the day of the election that the election happens. The election has been prepared before the election day. So if the Electoral Act is, for example, a bill is being passed or signed by the president, would it have any effect on the immediate election?
Let me answer you this way. Now, on the 7th day of October, we are going to release the final list of nominated candidates, and we're also going to release the voters register that will be used for that particular election on these 2 days. Now, if the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is signed into law after that, the implication is that we have implemented 10 of the items we have on our timetable and schedule of activities, and we have 14 of them. Now, if you look at some of the provisions of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, there are two provisions that are fundamental that may impact on the governorship election in Anambra State if they are signed into law, if it's signed into law today. The one is that in the new bill, in the bill pending before the National Assembly, it makes provision on what will happen if a nominated governorship candidate dies before the announcement of results. The new bill says that the deputy governorship candidate steps into the shoes and then nominates a running mate.
Yeah.
So that's one of the implications of the of the new bill. The second implication is that it also talks about what happens under Section 68 of the Electoral Act. Prior to this particular period, the Electoral Act says that the decision of the returning officer relating to the scores of candidates is final, subject to review by a court of law. The new bill says that if there is a challenge, if the commission believes that a provision of the provisions of the Electoral Act has not been followed, or that there has been undue pressure or duress on the returning officer, that the Independent National Electoral Commission has a period of 7 days to review what the returning officer has done and may change what the returning officer has done, subject to review by a court of law. So these two provisions may likely impact on the Anambra governorship election if the National Assembly concludes the work and then the president signs into law. Yes. So we've looked at some of these things, and we are confident that we have the capacity to deal with any eventuality relating to them.
In terms of internet penetration, INEC has said, we will go ahead. We have the capacity. That's what we have told the nation. The NCC had told the Senate when they were invited that the issue of penetration is a problem, that there might be possibility of us not being able to 100% be able to use the internet and all of that. Can you tell Nigerians at this forum that you are, that INEC really are taught through this process that you are ready to transmit the result electronically?
Well, we've thought through this process.
I'm not talking about one election. I'm talking about a general election across the country.
Exactly. We have thought through this process, and to show Nigerians and also convince Nigerians that we've thought through this process, we reduce our thoughts and we reduce our position into a written form, and we have distributed it widely, and we are still distributing the position of the Commission relating to some of these issues. Let us be very, very clear. We have made it very clear that the whole issue about electronic transmission of results is not something that started today. The Commission has thought through these things for almost a period of 10 years, and we have piloted this process for almost a period of 10 years. In 2018, and we have been consistent, in 2018, we met with the NCC and also met with the major providers, major network providers. And at the meeting in 2018, it was agreed and it was found that 93% of all the polling units of being used by the Independent National Electoral Commission are covered by the major networks. That was in 2018. So the point, and the major networks in 2018 said that they had the capacity to quickly cover the remaining 7%. So for us, we do not have any challenge with the issue of electronic transmission of results. This whole thing, this whole debate, this whole narrative relating to whether we have capacity, whether there is internet penetration, is governed by certain parameters and certain variables. One is governed by the issue of fear, of the unknown. People do not know what may likely happen if the Commission begins to transmit election results. What will be their position, especially for those who are used to manipulating electoral results, intimidating voters at the level of the polling units. So it's fear. The second issue that is driving this whole thing is just misrepresentation. Misrepresenting the views of the Commission in relation to whether we have the capacity or we do not have the capacity to transmit election results. But the truth of the matter is that since the time we started uploading polling unit results, we have conducted more than 27 elections. None of those elections has been upturned in relation to the processes and procedures of the commission. All have been, the challenges around those elections have been in relation to the nomination processes of the political parties. As an electoral management body, we believe that if we begin electronic transmission of results, one, is going to increase trust in the electoral process. Two, it will enable us to much more creatively and more concretely manage electoral outcomes and manage election results. Three, in the context of the pandemic, it will also reduce the type of overcrowding we have within the collation centers. You know, and it will also reduce this whole issue about challenges in speedy dispensation of justice.
Let me quickly say this, Mr. Okoye, and I put your mouth. I know you use more than one telephone line.
Yes, I do. Yes.
That's because of the inefficiency of network, and where you might want to travel. I use more than one telephone line. A lot of Nigerians too. And the fear is that when one fails, you can revert to the other. You have an alternate line. That's one of the reasons. That's not the only reason why people carry more than one line. So the question is, should there be a failure of network on the day of election on the bimodal accreditation and voting or transmission process? What happens? If there is a certain polling unit or an area or a local government area that there is a failure of network on the day, because we have had people on the program that we took them on Zoom, we could hardly have them for 5 minutes from Anambra State because of bad network.
Let me answer your question from two perspectives. The first perspective is that before we started talking about electronic transmission of election results, we sat down with the major network mobile providers, and we mapped out the country. They know the areas of their strength. And we had already assigned the major networks to different parts of the country where they believe they have strength. And in the places where we believe that a particular network provider does not have strength, we merge them with other network providers. So we sat down with them in 2018, and in 2018 they agreed that they were good to go, that this thing was doable and that it was practicable.
But it was not 100%. So that's the question I'm asking now. Is that what is the alternative? Should the bimodal, the device fail at the moment that is going to be used? Is it going to be online 100%, 24/7 for it to work?
No, let us differentiate what the bimodal is doing. The bimodal uses battery for now. It uses battery. We charge the battery, and when we tested this thing during in 84 polling units in Isoko, the battery, none of them had any battery challenge. What it does is that when you come to the polling unit as a voter, we first of all find out whether you have come with a genuine PVC issued by the commission. If you have come with a genuine PVC, you will now get to the second stage. The second stage is to test whether your biometrics. We test your fingerprints. If your fingerprint goes, if there's no problem, you are accredited and you go and vote. If your fingerprint print fails, then we will capture your facials and match your facials to your picture that we have.
So the locally, the devices have offline data on them.
Exactly.
That's where I'm going to.
Exactly.
Because then if it fails, because if there's no network on your phone, you can still check your contacts.
Exactly.
So that's the point I'm going to.
Yes.
So you can capture this offline.
Yes.
And upload it at later point.
Yes.
So that's where I'm. That's the question.
You know,
I'm
the
asking.
type of uploading we do, and that is what people do not understand. The moment we use the device to upload results, if there's no network where the presiding officer is at that particular point in time, it will store the information, and then when you get to the collation center, it will upload itself. So we do not have problem.
That seems to settle a lot of those network problems and all of that.
Exactly.
Because you can take a picture and you may not send it via WhatsApp or whatever means, but you get to where there's network and you can send it. That seems to have satisfied some my curiosity in that respect.
Yes.
One area that I would like you to talk about is the threat that we're hearing on the ground about this election, the psychological threat.
Yes.
We've been hearing sit at home orders by the non-state actors in Anambra State and in some parts of the southeast. Does this worry the commission? And if it does, what are you doing about it?
Yes, we are worried as an electoral management body. We are concerned about, as an electoral management body, we are concerned about the fluid security situation in the country and also in Anambra State. We monitor, we observe almost on a daily basis what is going on with the campaigns, what is going on with the people, what is going on with the voters, and what is going on with our staff out there in the field. So we are really concerned. And we've been meeting with the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, both at the national level, the state level, and at the local government level. And in the next few days, we are going to accelerate our engagement with the critical stakeholders in the electoral process, traditional rulers, religious leaders, civil society groups and organizations, the media and civil society. So our main aim is to make sure that we have a tranquil atmosphere to enable us deploy properly. You understand that we are going to deploy over 25,000 ad hoc staff to go and run the Anambra governorship election. And the bulk of this staff are going to come from young men and women doing their national youth service and also students of federal tertiary institutions. These are young men and women with a bright future, and the commission will not like a situation where any of them will come to any form of harm. So we have been appealing to both the government, the critical stakeholders, to make sure that all of us do whatever is necessary to have a very calm election in Anambra State. Because if you look at Section 178 of the Constitution, it makes it very clear that we must conduct the Anambra governorship election within a certain constitutionally circumscribed period.
If not, there will be a constitutional crisis.
Definitely, yes.
So, to wrap up now, 3 quick things that I wanted you to weigh in on. One, I've heard INEC give out 10 warnings in the past. If there is violence, we will not conduct elections. We will not jeopardize the lives of our staff. I've heard INEC say that in the past. Do you still stand on that?
Well, you know, Section 26 of the Electoral Act gives us the power to reschedule or postpone an election when there's threat of violence or when we believe that the lives of our staff will be in jeopardy. But, you know, we can only postpone within those circumscribed period in Section 178 of the Constitution. Thereafter, we cannot postpone anymore. And if we are unable to conduct election within this period, it becomes a very, very big problem. And it goes outside the confines of the Commission.
And you have insisted no bimodal use in the election, no voting.
If we can't authenticate your fingerprint and we cannot capture your facials within the framework, you will not be allowed to vote unless you leave your face at home and you come to the polling unit. If not, we can capture your fingerprint and we can capture your face. Yes.
The last, I have 10 seconds before we take a break. And that part is ABGA, PDP, status quo remain, right? From the last time.
Yes, there's no change.
Professor Charles Soludo is still on the list, and Mr. Valentine Ozigbo still on the list, isn't it?
Yes.
Status quo.
Yes.
Remains.
Yes.
Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner on Voter Education and Publicity, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, do expect our invitation as much as we get some other development. Thank you so much for coming.